Ladies and gentlemen, hope you're doing well. Ben the Bane Davis here with Misfits News, joined by my co-host as always, BL. Before we get into this exciting breakdown of Misfits 19, I have to ask, BL, how are you?
I'm doing fantastically. I'm super happy. You've just won your fight as well. It's gone over. Congratulations. How was that?
Thank you so much. The victory tastes so sweet, you know?
Absolutely. Positive thoughts. But let me give you a breakdown on what's to come in this episode. We're talking about the Misfits 19 announcement. Jake gives his last offer to KSI and the full Misfits rebrand and next year expectations.
I love it. So much on the table. But let's dig into what was a fantastic card announcement yesterday. We got to see the full package of what's going to go ahead of Slim versus Gibbs. So let's start off with that main event. 8 rounds between two guys that have been yapping at each other for 5 years. Yeah, that's going to be a fun main event.
There's a storyline there. It's been so long trying to make these fights happen, and crossover boxing was becoming a place where it was difficult to make these matchups happen, which was a shame. We were criticizing the normal industry in boxing for not making them happen. We've seen them now making these big fights, and we've finally been able to put it together in Qatar.
Who do you think is going to win that fight?
It's a tough question, Ben. It's a very tough question. I think Gibb is relentless. He's got an engine. He's got a drive, and he's going to be bringing that forward pressure with combination punches. But Slim has a right hand from hell. His opponents know it. They've all ended up on the canvas. So if I had to put my chips on it, I think the fans are winning. What are you thinking, Ben?
Fantastic. Yes, that's the correct answer, by the way. Well, it doesn't really matter who is winning that fight because we already know their next opponent, right? The co-main event. We see King Kenny and Saul Poppy finally square off. What a trajectory these guys have been. It's a true crash course, I would say, between the Filipino superstar and the Beta Squad member.
They've had a few setbacks in their boxing career. They had a few losses and they took on the hardest challenges, and now they're taking on each other, which it looks like for so long they were going to fight, and now it's finally happened on this Qatar event. It's a tough fight for both fighters. It's probably both of their most dangerous fight as well, I would argue.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. You know, last time we saw Saul Poppy on Misfits, it was against Amadeus Ferrari, who was a complete locomotive inside there until he absolutely ran out of gas and got TKO'd. So for me, the way that I look at it is Saul Poppy has dealt with the exact opposite of what King Kenny's going to be. Kenny's methodical. At this point in his career, I think he knows how to fight intelligent. And so I hope that we see Salt make the adjustments, because this version of King Kenny, I don't think he's ever seen it before.
Well, you mentioned adjustments. We have Deji versus, right now, we know ... So It's exciting to know Deji is making his return, hopefully. But who will his opponent be?
Not sure. I think originally it was supposed to be allegedly, and that has now fallen apart. So many fans wanted Alex Wasabi. I don't think that that's going to be the welcome back fight for Deji. I think we got to get Deji to grease the wheels, tune it up, right? Get the band all squared away, and then you can go to Alex Wasabi. So to answer your question, I'm truthfully not sure. I felt was a nice comeback. Don't know fuck all about him, but I'm sure he would have been a great
It would have been fantastic.
Fighter, yeah. Can we call him a fighter? I don't know.
Let me throw a couple names to you.
Sure.
The Dannys. Danny Aarons, Danny Simpson. Again, for me, it's a decent level. And for Deji, coming back after taking some time off in a new weight class, I like it. I don't hate that fight.
I think it'd be a lot of fun, considering that both the Dannys are operating off of a draw. They haven't been defeated.
They're undefeated, they got no.
Danny Aarons is undefeated. I will die on that stone. No, I think either of the Dannys would be a fantastic option, but you're missing one man who I believe should score off with Deji in Qatar. Take a guess as to who that is.
Is this the man with the tank top next to me?
No, I was gonna say Bevo.
Bevo! That's the real threat in the division.
Yeah,
that's
Bevo,
who everyone's scared of.
The veneers, it just scares them away. It blinds them, and they can't see his strikes. But that's the thing. We'll find out who Deji's competing against. But either way, Deji's back, and I think that's good for crossover boxing. But what else is on this card?
There's a big one. There's one that everyone wants to see. It's me versus Jay Swingler.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if you knew that one, Ben.
I am so pumped up for you. I think
Thank you.
Weight classes are a little bit far apart.
A little bit.
Yeah, you gotta bulk up. You gotta bulk up, buddy.
I'm getting there. I'm eating the chocolate. Nick Lamau versus Jay Swingler. The fight everyone's been waiting for. The first time out, I think Jay Swingler underestimated what Nick Lamau could bring. And now, this time around, he's coming more prepared.
I think it's going to be everything that the first fight was cranked up another couple notches. Like you mentioned, it's better versions of both guys. I think the fact that they have live rounds against each other is going to be extremely educational. And the fact that we're running back what was one of the most infamous crossover bouts ever between Swingler and Nick LMAO the first time is exciting, and I'm glad it's on this card.
Absolutely. Another fight that's got me pumped up is Jarvis versus Ben Williams. And we've spoken about it on some previous Misfits news episodes, but it's finally come to fruition. Ben, what's your reaction to that one?
Oh, finally. Finally, I think that if Jarvis was not injured, of course, he ruptured the tendons in his hand, had to take a lot of time on the shelf with surgery and rehabilitation. Him versus Ben Williams in Dublin would have been electric. I mean, that could have been a truly fantastic addition to that card. But now we're getting it in Qatar. This is a huge moment for Ben Williams, who's a superstar. This kid, immediately after beating Warren Spencer, went on a 14-city tour for his DJ performances. He's got a vodka brand coming out, I think. Like, the trajectory that Ben Williams is on, it's awesome to watch. And if he can take out Jarvis, battle-tested Jarvis, for a belt, dude, I mean, this really could be one of the next waves of Misfits.
Well, let's not write out Jarvis. He took on a formidable opponent in Mexico.
Yeah.
And he's been doing the work in. If you look at who he's been sparring, who he's training with, it is the elite in boxing.
For sure, yeah. I didn't mean to glaze Ben Williams there as much as I did. No, Jarvis is great, man. And I think that he is doing all the right things. The people that he's sparred with are some of the biggest names in boxing ever, right? Floyd Mayweather, he's sparring with him. Carmel Moten, he sparred with Carmel, right? So, like, these are people that are leveling Jarvis up dramatically. And I do believe that the experience going down to Mexico and beating the fuck out of a random Mexican pro boxer was beneficial because he got to get back into that mindset. He got to get back into that live rounds and going hard against a person who is assigned the same task, which I think is a great appetizer for this Ben Williams bout. So I think Jarvis is going to come in here, look great, and it'll be a fun fight for the fans, that's for sure.
I want to take a moment, Ben. We've gone through the full card.
Yeah.
What's your words to summarize?
It's fantastic. You know, I think that the community wants every card to be like this. They want exceptional fights with bad blood, like Slim versus Gibb, like Swingler and Nick LMAO. They want title fights that feel like title fights, like Jarvis and Ben Williams. Every fight on this card practically has been built up over a very long period of time. So, you know, if the fans see a card like this and are disappointed, I would love to know what the fuck they want, right? What card were you expecting?
They want Ben Davis as the headliner.
This is the only thing this card is missing. We're just missing a Ben to Ben Davis fight. And who knows, maybe 2025, the Misfits return will be in full effect. That is, no, he's a southpaw. I don't want to fucking fight southpaws, man. No, this card is fantastic. And again, it's still pending. There still could be some additions, and who knows? You know, there is a little bit of time until November 28th, so it could get even better, or the card falls apart and it's a lot worse, and everything is fucked, and
there's just no fights at that point.
Disappointing everybody. No, but if you are a fan of this scene and you don't like this card, something is genuinely wrong with you.
Jake Paul has now made an official statement saying,
KSI, you want 185, I want 200. I didn't want to budge, you didn't want to budge. Mr. Beast said, why don't we just meet in the middle? Good point, Mr. Beast. I'm down. 192.5. That's my final.
What do you make of that, Ben? Obviously, they've gone back and forth. KSI 185, now this, and the other, and it just as we keep saying, the fight keeps looking further and further. But we also, in the same token, I'll argue, are getting closer and closer because they're starting to meet more in the middle.
You're not going to like my opinion.
I'm really, I can see it.
I don't give a fuck. I genuinely do not care. If the fight happens, great, we can talk about it and start playing it up.
But until that date.
Until that, I could not give a fuck about this fight. Genuinely.
It's just been talked about for so long
Absolutely.
now that it's just... Yeah. It's losing that energy, I would argue.
Oh, yeah. No, the train has come to a complete stop, in my opinion. At least for me. Again, I know there's a lot of fans that would love to debate all day long, Jake versus KSI. Have that discussion away from me, because I don't give a fuck about it at the moment. Until things seriously move in a direction where it's official, it's a waste of time, energy, and breath to even talk about. That's my take on it. It's fucking stupid.
Well, then, if it's not Jake Paul, which it's not going to be anytime soon, we've spoken about it many a times, but KSI is fighting in the first quarter of this year. Mm-hmm. We know this now.
Yeah.
Who should he be fighting?
I've said this a couple times. I'll reiterate it. I think Luke Rockhold is the perfect opponent for KSI.
Oh, I like it.
former UFC middleweight champion that has competed in karate combat this year, has gotten a win. A bit older, so it is kind of that same vein of next chapter for UFC guys. And I think it's a pretty legit fight for KSI. If you can knock out Luke Rockhold, I think that does a lot for you. I think it does a lot more than beating Mike Perry, right? So to me, that's a pretty logical thing for them to move towards. Maybe Anthony Pettis. I mean, Pettis versus KSI. I know Anthony loves boxing these days, so that could be an interesting one to explore. But I don't know. I know we've talked a lot about Amir Khan, but like we just shared in one of our recent episodes, Amir, I don't think is going to play ball.
Not happening, bro.
If he's asking $4,000 US for an interview, then
what's he asking for a fight?
Imagine, what he's asking for a fight. So I just don't think it would be something that Misfits could do realistically. So I think at this point in time, we have to move away from the Amir Khan conversation. If it comes back around, great. But yeah, my stance at the moment, Luke Rockhold.
Well, let's move away from the KSI and talk about this beauty here on the screen. The rebranding, Ben. Misfits have come back with a bang. They've changed up the logo. They've made a few official statements. And something I'd like to talk with you, the rings. They still keep it in the old logos. Yeah. People do not need to panic. It's staying on the belts. It's staying on these rings. You have to get 5 title defenses for the gold one. And then for the platinum one with the ruby gems, you have to have 10 title defenses.
That is a lot of title defenses. I don't
If there's any man, it's Anthony Taylor.
Yeah, I think AT is well on his way to getting one of those rings. But, I mean, it's hard to think of anyone in the scene that would be able to defend their belt 10 times. It's hard to think of anyone in any fucking promotion defending the belt 10 times. I mean, that's like John Jones level, Anderson Silva level, Demetrius Johnson level.
Which is all the level of Misfits.
Yeah, Chase Moore is right really there.
He's just sticky-tocky as
well.
I
mean, gosh, yeah, depending on if you ask Mams or not, he'd tell you that, HS is better than Jones probably. No, I think that the rings are an interesting nuance. I do think they should have maybe brought the defenses down a little to capture one of those. Honestly, maybe it's like hey, when you win the belt, you get the ring, and then with each defense, you get a ruby, kind of like how the UFC does it with their modern belt design. I think that would have been interesting because it's hard for me to think that someone's going to get to the point where they can get a ring. I mean, think about it, 5 defenses of your belt, that would take you like 3 years.
At this current going?
2.5, 3 years. Yeah, so I'm like, we're going to be rebranding again by the time anyone gets to the point where they can get one of these.
On the meeting the other day, there's 2 fighters that are very near it. We mentioned one, Anthony Taylor. The other one is Dean the Great. So we may see a little ring on one of those fighters' hands, and I'm excited to see it. Yeah. I mean, it's new, it's fresh. It brings people wanting to fight for the belt.
Completely. El Brook and Julie Polka, I think, are nearing that territory as well. Yeah. They're 2 or 3 defenses away. So, yeah, I mean, I think it adds another layer, and I think it's exciting. I think it's different. And what we strive to do with Misfits is be different, right? So, I like the rings. What do you make of the logo?
It's different. It feels very much like a clothing brand, I'd argue. And also, this is not the only logo there is. There is an MF one, which is for the icons, and this is the larger one right now, which we saw KSI wear it on his music video as well, which was fantastic song. I do watch it whilst eating my lunchly and drinking my prime, I will say. Will we see that on Monday?
We were talking about this earlier. We won't go. I guess we could.
Has it happened?
So allegedly, what's happening this is gonna be weird, like Back to the Future talking about it. So they're trying to do a segment, right, where Huss, the Misfits ring announcer, is eating a lunchly, drinking a prime, watching the Hawk Tua podcast.
And saying, I like my cheese drippy, bruh.
With the KSI song on. I don't think they should do that, respectfully.
What are you talking about? It's going to be great.
So this is coming out the day after the announcement card. If they have done that and made Huss do it, I'm sorry, Huss. I'm sorry that they made you do that. And
are your children okay? Is your family okay?
Yeah, is your family
Are they released from hostage?
I like my cheese drippy, bruh.
Qatar is the end of the year. There is no more Misfits events to go on. We're going into a new year, a fresh year. Some people say this wasn't the greatest year at Misfits. I'd argue it was decent. What do you want?
Wasn't the greatest year. I'd argue it was fine.
It was great.
I'd argue it was a 4 out of 10, so go fuck yourself.
Ben Davis, it's been Misfits News.
Oh, I love it. We'll see you guys next time here. Make sure you tune in Tuesday, Thursday, if we get to that, and subscribe.